and welcome to Tiger Granola Bar Podcast. I'm your host, Ronick, and today's guest is Lloyd. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, no problem. I enjoy it. I don't mind. I get a lot of people who want to know the stories and stuff from out here on the road and cool things, and so I don't mind sharing.
Yeah, traveling seems like a cool job. Like, may tack up a lot of money, but it still seems like a fun job, or at least an interesting one.
You know, it is and it's not. Being on the road is pretty expensive. So, like, if you stop and you actually sit down for a meal, it costs you about $35. Airport prices, truck stop prices, it's all the same. And it's really pretty lonely. So you got to kind of find a way to make yourself entertained, but a lot of that stuff costs money. So it does kind of suck. I mean, it's got its ups and downs, but for me, I almost wish I could find a job where I was home all the time, but it's just not possible.
You said it kind of sucks. Like, how come you still do it then?
I do it because I enjoy making my YouTube videos, and I enjoy being able to get out there and, travel and see the world and meet new people. So it's a double-edged sword. The work-wise, I don't enjoy. The travel and the people and just the opportunities that come my way and the ability to make content, I enjoy those parts of it. The rest I don't.
Well, first off, like, where are you from? Like, what was your childhood like?
It was the worst thing you could possibly imagine. I grew up in a town of 300 people in the Texas Panhandle. My dad cut his fingers off when I was 8, so I ended up going and having to help my dad be a tractor mechanic when I was like 8 years old. We were literally the poorest people in town, and it was not an easy time growing up. I learned work ethic at a very young age, and I was very, I guess, entrepreneurial. So I started trying to figure things out and trying to make money on the side and do this and do that. And I never really had a mentor, I guess you'd say, growing up, other than my dad. So I didn't have anybody really to lead me in a path out of being poor for a long time until I was probably in my early 20s. And then I just had a little bit of a mentor. And then I didn't really like get the poor side of my life out until I was in my late 30s, and I actually met people who saw the potential in me and wanted to see me grow. But I honestly, I probably would have never left that small town if it weren't for I went to work for a rodeo stock contractor, and I started seeing the world, and I say the world. I mean, the farthest we really went away was like 200 miles, but I started seeing different places. I met a girl once, and I ended up chasing her out of town and going and living in a car just to be close to her. And, and then I went on harvest, and I got to see a lot more, and I got to see the ocean, and that was pretty cool. And grew up a farm kid, I guess you'd say, but without the farm, I just worked on it.
When you were 8 years old, you said that, like, you worked for your father, you kind of helped him out since he lost his fingers. Did, like, what was that like? Because not many kids, like, of course they have chores, but, like, not many kids at least have to go that hardcore,
It was pretty normal where I grew up. We learned how to do things at a very young age. I mean, I could weld, I can do plumbing, I can do woodworking, I could, construction. I could do all of that stuff, by the time I was 10. It wasn't just, riding a horse and working cattle and things. I mean, it was actual, like, you learn skills growing up. Ed Wildman, he hired me, I think I was 9. And he was the plumber in the area, and he hired me to replumb a house that was down the street from mine that pipes had frozen busted. So I did that for a month or so, and then I got to do a lot more with him. But welding, that's pretty natural. They taught that in school, but heck, most of us already do it. Construction, things like that. I mean, it just there wasn't really contractors out there. You just called up to do stuff, so you just did it. My dad, my uncle built fire trucks, so I got started doing that stuff when I was way young. Everybody worked at a young age.
Other than like being poor, like, do you think you had like a happy family, or was it like when you say you had the worst life? What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I say worst life. I mean, worst life is compared to um, the majority of people. I definitely didn't get that privilege card that everybody been talking about. Um, it was we didn't get to do a lot. And I say happy. I mean, I was happy. I got to hang out with my dad all the time, and while he was working, I mean, I got to do things that most kids today would never even imagine. Um, and so my life as I knew it, eh, it was all right. But now looking back, we were definitely destitute. I mean, we made the best out of things. Like we would trade barter work for food. My mom, she had a garden, so she would trade some vegetables off for other stuff, and we got um, we had little times where we got some good stuff or candy, or every once in a while if we had a good month when we went grocery shopping, we might be able to share a deal of awesome spicy chicken bites kind of deal, which is nothing to most people, but for me and my brother, that was uh, that was a big thing that we got to get those, because that was literally like an hour's worth of work. So it was not the greatest. I mean, there were definitely people who are way more well to do than we were.
I'm taking you're from like the south because like your accent and everything.
I'm from the Texas Panhandle. Yeah, where are you located? I'm just curious.
I'm located in Iowa.
I'm actually on my way to Iowa right now.
Oh,
I
no
don't know.
shit. Like what part of
Yeah,
Iowa?
I'll be in Dubuque by the time the sun comes up. I'm
Oh,
actually getting into Kansas now.
ah,
So
nice. Never been there.
Kansas,
Yeah, I've never been to Kansas.
it's actually not bad. I actually don't mind Kansas. There's some good folks. Definitely. Now I can't speak for Kansas City because I've only been really hung out on the Missouri side. But as far as like you get out there and around Dodge City and Garden City and all that, yeah, there's some really good folks out there, even liberal.
I plan on traveling, but I haven't ever like been out. The closest I've been at, like, I mean, I've been out of Iowa, but like nothing like traveling. Cedar Rapids and Mount Vernon, that might be the closest I've been outside of Iowa.
I'll tell you, Des Moines Airport has um, they got probably one of the top 10 burgers out of all the airports in the entire country. The best burger in the entire country in an airport is the Billy Goat burger. I literally will sometimes I will connect in Chicago just so I can stop and get a Billy Goat burger.
I have to check that out next time I travel.
I,
Uh,
I, I would tell you that's one thing that I regret that I didn't start doing when I was younger, because I didn't really get out of town too far until I was like 18, and then went on harvest and stuff. But I didn't take the opportunity to see the world, and I wish I would have, because it now that I'm out here and just in the U.S. and Canada. Um, Now that I'm out here and I've seen all this stuff and met all these different people and everything, it's really opened my mind and my world up to um, understanding different things.
what was your relationship with like you had a good time with your dad, right? But like, what was your relationship with them like? Were they different, or was it just like you like to hang out with them?
I was more like he was my hero kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um, it was like the way that he sacrificed for his family at doing things. But it wasn't just that. So like small town, everybody's on the fire department, right? And my dad was like the assistant chief, but he was the guy who everybody counted on. He was the guy that everybody would call on. If they needed help, they would always call my dad. They may have treated him like crap, but they would always call my dad. And I honestly, he was my hero. I've seen that man do amazing things, and he's probably one of the smartest people I've ever known that never got credit for it. Back when I was doing fire protection inspections and things like that, I had to take a hydraulic engineering class. I aced that hydraulic engineering class based on the things that my dad figured out on his own about flow patterns and things whenever he was building fire trucks. And I had learned all those things from my dad, not from a book. So I literally was able to take that class and ace it in a matter of a day and a half. And it was a semester long college class that was online.
You think like life teaches more than school?
Oh, 100%. I mean, think about how many people who go out and get a business degree and then they go start a business, or they take over a business and they run it into the ground, versus some guy who didn't even graduate high school, who goes out and he gathers the knowledge that he needs and starts a business and turns into being a multi-millionaire and retires like that.
Some
And
billionaires don't even
it's
go to
just,
college sometimes.
and Patrick McDavid, he is very much a not anti-college, but and not anti-education, but anti-college. And I think they had their purposes back in the day, but people get way more out of certifications than they do, colleges anymore. So my son, I send him to the University of Oklahoma. He has a degree in psychology. He's a school teacher now, and school counselor and all that. Okay, that's great. Um, he could have got a certification for being a counselor and done the same thing, and it would have taken him way less time. And then he could have gotten real world experience. All of our degrees and everything that we have that come with a license, there's also real world experience that must come with it. So if you want to be a doctor, you have to intern, right?
Yeah,
You
of
have
course.
to do so many years of residency before they let you go. Okay, I get that. Well, why do you have to spend $270,000 to be a doctor just to go work and to be a resident? Why can't you start off as a CNA and then get your RN, and then you work up and work up and work up, and you get a few additional certifications, keep moving on up, and then go ahead and apply to challenge the tests that a doctor would have to take, and then do a residency? You've already done all the legwork. You already have the knowledge. You've been chaperoned by doctors the entire way. And then, boom, then you can get a license to be a medical professional. Um, you know, Electricians, that's a certification program. That is an extremely daunting task, and it takes years and time and learning and everything before you can get it. Um, Electricians who do a certification and have years on the projects know way more than any MEP who comes out of college and goes to work for an engineering firm, because they may want to try to put a plastic pipe through a concrete wall kind of deal. It's not as easy as you think. So, but on paper, it's really easy. But I think that I think they're overrated, but I also think they're necessary in some areas. That's probably an unpopular opinion,
No, like I
but
agree. Like I do agree with you. Like on the, like on the doctor thing. Like I don't trust someone who doesn't like Like, of course, you need real experience, but like, I don't trust someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So it can work in both ways.
Yeah, and it's going to lead if you have a process in which you started off at the bottom and worked your way up, you're going to weed those people out who aren't worth a damn. And before they get to be doctors, you're going to figure out, nope, this is not for them. Before they spend, $270,000 in debt to be able to go to college. There's also a little thing that I think colleges raise their rates just because student loans become available. And when they started doing student loans and then they started doing government backed student loans, it became college was very unaffordable. And yet you could get a degree in underwater basket weaving if you wanted. And it would cost you an outrageous amount for all those semester hours for a worthless degree. But they can get you a loan for it. So why not, right? I think that if they stop doing student loans on that stuff, well, maybe not stopped, but dramatically decreased it, which I believe they just did decrease the cap on it uh, a little bit. I think they lowered it to 200,000, so nobody could go over 200,000. But I think if they would continue lowering it, I think colleges would continue lowering the barriers and the cost of the classes, and you would get a lot of people who couldn't go to college normally, who didn't want to take on debt, that would go, and you would see a lot of awesome people come out of this world.
Meow, 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 meow. All right. Thanks for watching. See you at the end. Bye. You said that your mom was like a dreamer. Like, I know what the term means, but like, what do you mean by that?
So my mom, uh, she was always the person. She was very entrepreneurial, but she was a short term dreamer. So like she would go and um, get in these multi-level marketing deals, or get into this or get into that, and it was something that it may last for 6 8 10 months, and then we kind of fizzle out for her. But she always believed that it was going to make it big until it didn't, and then she'd give up on it.
So like a phase in the market field.
Nah, I'm gonna say it's just more like somebody can sell her on a bill of goods and she'd bite off on it and buy
Okay.
oceanfront property in Arizona. I'm a dreamer. Don't get me wrong. I'm a dreamer, but I'm also a doer. And so I look at real things and real tangible stuff that I can actually do, and I get into it and I go all the way in. I started a company with my sister about 2 years ago, and we started that company up and built it. We just sold it for 20 times what we put into it. So it's like we got a pretty good profit on it. She and her husband, they have their own business. Actually, they've built and sold off part of that business, uh, and done pretty well on it. My brother, he's solid and steady. He's had worked at the same place for the last 20 some odd years, and he runs it now. But he's literally about to retire, and he's 40. Well, 39 actually. So that's one thing that growing up like that, we all, my brother, my sister, and I, we all decided we didn't want that life for our children. So we worked really hard to make sure that we were solid.
Do you think your mom is like a is like the key like idea of what not to do?
Yeah, it was a great example of what not to do, because we learned from a lot of her mistakes, her and my father's mistakes. I didn't know what credit cards really were. I didn't know how credit worked. I didn't know how to use bank money to your advantage. I didn't know any of that because they were very much a try not to have a. We didn't have car notes. I mean, we had car loans, but they were tote the note lots. We didn't have a house loan. We just really didn't have a lot. So I didn't know how to leverage any of those things. When I got out on my own, I actually stumbled several times trying to figure it all out. So, like, in 2006, I started out and I did really, really well, up until I got divorced. And then I got divorced, and then '08 happened, and then I really lost my bud. So it was more of for me, it was a hard curve to be able to learn about money. Now, my sister, she actually went to be a financial educator for a bank, and she did that for several years. So she learned a lot and taught me and my brother a lot. So we were able to figure out different ways of doing things and how to use money right.
Do you think like within all this, like your sister is like an educator, your the brother's been like I think you mentioned the same place 20 years. What's your inspiration, or is like traveling kind of like your inspiration in a way?
This came about because I was doing fire protection consulting up until 2020, and then I got back into trucking. And then because I had a CDL since I went on harvest when I was 18, and so I got back into trucking, and then my wife, she got cancer, and I needed to make quick money, and I saw an ad, and at the time, it was a good, really good paying job. It was independent contractor, so I worked for myself basically. So when I take a load, the load is basically a job, and then I finish the job and move on. But I make pretty good money at it, but I needed to because we had cancer stuff to pay for.
Do you think growing up poor did change the like way like you're obviously doing pretty well, but do you think the growing up poor kind of changed like your idea of what life should be, or like what life could be?
Um, it definitely made me think about things differently. It made me see other people's situations and have empathy for it, but also it also hardened me a little bit because if you grow up and you manage to get out of something like that, then you see people that are just sitting around, oh, woe is me, I'll never get out of this. It I'm kind of hard about that because I did it. And so I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm just going to tell them, buckle up your bootstraps, figure out a way, and let's go. The only reason people save each other is to save themselves. If you get some rich tycoon who drops $3.5 million to help with this charity and all this stuff, and he's getting all this recognition for doing all this good work. Well, truth is, he was going to pay $3.5 million to taxes, and he didn't give his last dime. He gave what he was going to end up giving the government. So he's really just saving himself. Even when people are like, "Oh, well, um, I helped out that family. You know, I helped them out." Well, they did it for their own recognition, not to actually help out. So the things that happen where people don't know it, that's true selflessness. Like Steve Buscemi, um, funny dude, a great actor. Um, and for a very, very long time, nobody knew that that dude showed up at a firehouse in New York City, threw on a coat, and went and worked the pile. And he didn't tell anybody. It finally got leaked like a decade after that. Because he was a fireman in New York City before he went to be an actor, and so and that was a selfless act that where he did it. So yeah, nobody is going to help anybody unless it's for their own deal, unless they've truly been there and they see a way out that they can actually help somebody, but they don't want credit for it.
Tell me about Vienna sausages. You said like growing up that Vienna sausages were kind of like a luxury. Why do you say that?
Oh,
Was it like a way like like one of those celebratory meals like oh you graduated or
it,
something like that?
oh no, it's so every once in a while, uh, so my dad got a job at the county, and he would go and get commodities from the food bank and bring them down to each town. And when he brought those commodities down, they would set out so many sacks for low income families. And whenever they set those sacks out, um, there was, believe it or not, there was a lot of people who they would go through those sacks, and Vienna sausages were not good enough for them. So
Really?
they would literally take the Vienna sausages out of the food bank stuff and set it to the side because they didn't like them. And my dad would like bring them home to us because everyone, I mean, he would, if anybody left any sacks at the end of the day, he'd bring them home. But we didn't qualify for that stuff. So he would go ahead and he would bring that stuff home. But me and my brother, we were just in a hog heaven because we got me into sausages because that was like rich people food right there.
Like you said you didn't qualify, but like how much were you off or like ahead or whatever you want to call it?
I don't know. I just, and it may not have even been that we didn't qualify, but yet my parents were too proud to try to apply for it. I just knew that we didn't get government assistance.
When you were a kid, like let's talk about school. What kind of kid were you like? Were you like in Breakfast Club's terms? Were you like the quiet kid, the nerd, the jock? Like what kind of kid were you like?
Oh, I was the dork. I was the kid that the kid that everybody beat up and took his lunch money. That kid beat me up. I had ADHD so bad it wasn't even funny. So I got sent to the principal's office all the time. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't do anything. I didn't want to be there. I hated school. They treated me like crap, and I didn't care, and I didn't want to be there. I'd rather be at work. But whenever I was 17, they said, you know, you can just quit and take your GED and get out of here, right? And I was like, set me up. So I took my GED and passed it, and I was out of there. I quit.
As a person, do you think you changed over time? Like you've of course gotten like you've worked hard, you and your siblings have, but like what would you say you changed for the better or worse?
I think we all changed for the better, but we all also changed for the worse. I believe I changed for the better as far as like bettering myself. Growing up, I was very much like my dad, and I would give for anybody, I would help anybody. And now I won't. Not just anybody. I don't just give selflessly. I do give, don't get me wrong. I realize that whenever you, sometimes when you're helping people, you're not actually helping them, you're only being used. And so it's very hard for me to um, just be that guy who, and I still, I mean, people, my friends call or, you know, people need this. I'll still help, but I'm very selective because there's so many people that they'll just call you to take advantage. So, like, for an example, we had to move because we had a flood in our house and it was just a big old crap show. And this was a few years ago. It was while my wife had cancer, right before her second surgery. And we were having to move out. Literally, 2 days before her surgery. And I called all those people who had asked me for help over the years, and I'd helped them, no questions asked. And not a single one of them showed up at all. They all had some reason they couldn't show up. Oh, well, we've got plans, we've got this, we've got this. And I mean, I selflessly gave whenever they needed help. Like one guy, I actually drove um, like 400 miles away with a trailer to go pick him and his wife up. And, just dropped everything I was doing to be able to do that for them. And, I've sat on the side of the road changing people's tires because they couldn't get it done in the rain, kind of crap. But none of those people answered the phone, or well, I mean, no one that answered the phone, they weren't able to because they had something else going. One of them there, oh, I'm going with my wife to watch this movie, so I'm not going to be able to. Let me know if you need help tomorrow. And I'm like, nope, we're out here today. And, a movie was more important. So, yeah, I've become hardened.
Do you think you've kind of looked at life more like you're on your own, basically?
Yeah, I very much believe I'm on my own. But ironic enough, as I've been on my own, I've taken a step aside, and I've realized this recently. I've gone from someone who everybody uses to someone where everybody follows. And so, like, I have something going right now. It's a really, really big deal. And as I'm talking to people about it, I'm having people ask me if they can get involved with me. They want to partner with me. They want to work for me to do this um, because they believe in the project. And so, to get people who are going to step up and be like, I'm in right away, I think it made me a better leader by being able to not be used and focusing appropriately where my stuff should be going.
Yo, what up, folks? It's me, Ronick. How's your Wednesday going? Thank you for checking this out. If if you are a fan of his or you just want to check out his stuff, he he has a YouTube channel. I link I tagged him, but if you want the link, it's all down in the description as usual. So go check him out. He's a great guest. And yeah, basically, uh have a good day and I'll see you on Wednesday.